Realm of Reckoning might be my favorite Ivy Studio game, period. This game, Realm of Reckoning, brings us so many different elements of board game strategy and gameplay that it challenges me not to look at this game in the elegance and the beauty that Ivy Studios has done and think this might be their best game yet. My name is Brian. You're watching Game Brigade. If you're new here, thank you for joining me. We are going to be diving into what Realm of Reckoning is, kind of give you guys my highlighted points about what this game might be. Does it work for you? And give you my final thoughts on this one. Now, as a word, I have been sponsored in the past from Ivy Studios, so take that with a grain of consideration when you're listening to my opinions. But I also have loved every single game Ivy Studios has produced, from Moonrakers, which is originally part of my top 10 games of all time, from Brink, Veiled Fate, Fractured Sky. Ivy Studios has made a lot of great games with a lot of different types of elements, each one offering a great social element, and Realm of Reckoning is no different, and I think it stands atop the tower for all the games in their library. So let's dive right into it. So what is Realm of Reckoning? If I were to describe it to you, well, it's pretty simple. It's a set building game. It's an area majority game. No, it's a drafting game. It's a bidding game. It's all of these things, and I know that humor doesn't come off very well, but to me, this game is a lot of different things, and a lot of times when I've seen game companies try to take elements of all these great mechanics, you can kind of get lost in the sauce, and there's not a really good way it's implemented. But the way Ivy Studios has done this one in Realm of Reckoning really makes that all the choices make sense. While it can feel overwhelming at first, they become with one with another, and everything kind of lines up. So to explain this game, we're going to break down each of the procedures and how they work, so you have a good understanding of what's going on. Then we can talk about some of these thoughts regarding this game. As I mentioned, this is the board we're going to be taking control of. This is an area control like map with several different regions, which you're going to be bidding for power during different types of reckonings that will offer different types of rewards. That is the core concept, high level idea. But to get there, we're first going to starting off with drafting cards. You're going to start off with several different cards in your hand, and the way that works is you're going to review your cards. You're going to choose one and place it face down. Generally, I will pass the cards to my player to the right or left, depending on the draft order. And then once everyone's ready in draft order, or in player order is how we were doing it, you will reveal the card, taking the action. There are several different actions that you can get from these cards. Let's talk about each one of those. The first one that we have here is the coin card. This one allows you to get several different coins, which will be resources for later on. So for example, we technically get 3 coins to add to our supply, which we can then use for bidding on the reckonings later in the game. So let's talk about those in a bit. The next cards are the mercenary cards. Mercenary cards are these small little cards that have 2 different logos on them. Those logos represent the different types of monument. I'm not quite sure what these are called, but they're like monuments that are located in the different realms. We'll talk about what those mean, but this ability would allow me to get 2 of them into my supply. The next type of card we could draw are these acolytes. That would be allowing me to take 3 of my acolytes of my color, placing them into a realm of my choice, and it could be any amount. You could throw them all into one. You can divide them evenly as you choose, whatever you want to do, but those allow you to get more of those acolytes, which again are part of the bidding process, which we'll get to later. And the final card that you can draft that gives you a specific power will be this Warden card, which the wardens are these tall little pillars, and these are, you're going to select them. There are a limited amount for each color, so that's very important to take note, as there are scoring opportunities for having sets of these types of wardens. And these wardens provide a passive ability also towards the bidding, or you can spend them for ×3 ability of that same cost. So we'll get into that. And the final card that you could eventually draft is a Reckoning card. A Reckoning card is what is going to trigger part of the end game triggers for each of the rounds, and also also is how you get your scoring opportunities. So we'll talk about that in time. So now that we talked about the drafting, once you've selected a card for the ability, you select the ability, you take it in, you're then going to place it underneath your player board. This is important because this is part of your set collecting. It also counts for different types of scoring control that you can have. And you have two choices. Each card is two-sided, either on the top or bottom, and you can pick which one you want to do, either giving you progression tracks through these different tracks on the board, which allows you to get artifacts, or you can get different types of sets, which are for scoring opportunities based on what you have in your inventory. So in this situation, I'm actually going to take this red one, slide that underneath there, and go up 2 more on this red track. And because in this made up scenario, let's say I'm the highest one, because I'm the highest one on that track, I'm going to take the artifact that is related to that ability and keep it in my supply. This specific artifact says choose one before each reckoning. I get an acolyte, a coin, or a mercenary card, a very powerful effect. And if you have multiple of these types of artifacts, they actually stack together. For example, if I had the pink one that says when placing an acolyte, place 2 more. So let's say, for example, we did trigger a reckoning, which means choose one before each reckoning. I place an acolyte. So I'm going to take my acolyte and place it into a region I wish. But because I'm placing an acolyte, it says, well, you can place 2 more. So there are different ways that you can make combinations with your artifacts, your powers and abilities and whatnot. If another player were to get tied with me on the track, the artifact will go back into the supply, and if they were to surpass me, they would gain control of the artifact, and that is after any type of rewards have been collected so that no one can get any crazy bonuses. But the Reckoning card is how the game is progressed. It's how things start to happen. So when a Reckoning card is played, the person who played the Reckoning card is going to choose one of the available rewards. All 3 of these rewards will be picked each round. And with 2 of these Reckoning cards in the draft pool, the final Reckoning card is on here. So that means once all cards have been played from their hands and there's no more left, you'll have a final Reckoning. But these reward cards are very important because each of the reckonings are going to allow the players to get different types of bonuses based on their bid. So now we're going to talk about this specific bidding element of this game. Everything you have is a resource in this game, other than, say, your cards that you've tucked, are basically resources to be spent during the hidden bidding element of the game. When the Reckoning card is played and they've chosen a war, they're also going to choose one of these monuments here, and they're going to move it to the region matching these. So this one's the red, so we'll actually pick a blue one and move it over here. That identifies what colors are available for this specific reckoning. So if you have any of these wardens, or based on your tracks that you might have, or if you have mercenary cards that have similar colors with them, each one of these things can be spent towards your bid. Let's talk about how each one of those works. Your acolytes in the region could be sacrificed 1-to-1, 1 acolyte for 1 bid power. Your track in the matching symbol, you can sacrifice 1 of these tracks to get 1 bid. So I could technically, since I have 6, bid all the way up to 0. So I could get 7 bid with these 2 resources here. These wardens, they provide a passive bonus. You always will get 1 based on the region they're located in. So since I have a matching color, I get 1. But if I chose to, I could sacrifice this to get a 3-time bonus. So this would be worth 3, but it's only a 1-time use. This would return back to the supply. Again, as I said, you have these mercenary cards that are double-sided, and if you have a matching symbol, you will get 1 bid, and if in fact both colors were in there, this would be worth 2. Finally, the last resource that we have available are the coins. You have 1 coin is worth 1 bid. The second bid would be 2 coins. The third bid, 3 coins, etc., scaling up. So you have a lot of different ways to get different types of bidding to then win those bids. The person who doesn't win, though, will get a penalty, but luckily they don't have to spend any of their resources, which is kind of a play on that. But let's talk about how these resources work. So taking a look at this specific Reckoning card, you have 3 different rewards that are able to be chosen and 1 penalty as well. The player who has the highest bid, with the ties being decided by who has the least amount of victory points, will get to choose first. The first one is one of these monuments. These are very important. These are basically how the scoring will be decided each age. Whoever wins this one will take one of their monuments and place it into an open location on the board, enabling that to now be available for players to score points from. The second place person with the bid will then get a choice of the final two. In this case, they can either get 4 acolytes or 2 mercenary cards. And again, if you have the artifacts that are matching that, those will stack on top of that as well. So you can either get 2 more mercenary cards or 2 more acolytes. And then the player who got last place in this, and unfortunately everyone has to participate, so you can't just say, no, I'm not going to be part of it. But if you are in that case and you lose, you don't spend any bids, thankfully, but you'll have to take the penalty. And in this case, it means you have to sacrifice one of your acolytes. After that, the final thing that happens is whoever won that specific reckoning is going to tuck it in their colored location, which will also come up for those set collections. That is the rough of a game round. Players are going to draft cards. They're then going to play those cards from their hand, taking the specific reward or potentially triggering different types of reckonings as they try to set these different types of monuments up at different scoring locations to try to get the most amount of victory points based on the strategy you're doing. So with that, let's talk a little bit about my thoughts about this game and some of the elements that I thought were really cool and how they kind of interplayed. So first off, as I kind of mentioned, there are a lot of mechanics with this game. And normally when I see games that have a lot of mechanics, I get really nervous because it almost will feel like it's overwhelming or things aren't going to be doing well. But the way that this game makes everything intertwined is very special. The first thing I want to talk about, of course, is the drafting, because there's a lot that starts at the drafting and it kind of will dictate your gameplay strategy from there on. You have a few different strategies you can do. Some of these artifacts are extremely powerful, and trying to control them from the early point in the game is very crucial. So you could try to pick cards that have a specific color matching way so that you can get all of them. For example, let's say I draft, let's do one that gives me double arrows. So I've got a red card and a blue card that gives me double arrows, which means I'll move up twice on either of those tracks. So I'm going to choose that card. We're just picking some random cards here to see if we get some good hits here. So I got 4 more cards, and luckily I got 2 more cards that have double arrows in red, and one of them specifically doesn't have a matching color symbol with mine, which matters if you decide to do the matching sets for the red cards. So I'm going to draft that one. Now let's say we continue this. I get all 5 of my cards all red. I'm able to skyrocket up that color track. Now that's one type of strategy within a ton of strategies that you can implement. One of the things I mentioned is that these reckoning cards are going to have 2 of them are going to be within the pool. If you see the reckoning card get passed to you and it's part of your hand, you don't have to draft it, of course, but now you know that within somewhere down the run, someone is going to draft it and they're going to have to play it at some time. And now you know that there's going to be a reckoning in that location, which helps you try to plan if you want to win that reckoning by forcing yourself to put more acolytes into that region, or to maybe strategize for a different reckoning, maybe the final reckoning, which will be the pink location up here. There's a lot of strategic elements that come from just the drafting element, and I like that a lot because it sets the stage for the rest of the game. The next thing that I think is super important and kind of overlooked there are 19 different scoring opportunities in this game. So you have different monuments, you have 19 of them, all with different types of levels for you to get points from. So for example, this scores points for the players with the least amount of victory points in each of the ages. You have 12 points who has the most coins at each of the rounds. And that's funny because I felt that coins, because of the way they scale, are one of the worst resources. So when I was playing, I tried to not get any coins. I didn't really want to be part of that game, as other people were hoarding them, getting upwards to sometimes 12 coins by themselves for those 12 points. But then again, they're pushing the resource into, my opinion, a very weak resource type. So there's different elements with that. You have some that are sets based on the type of wardens you get. Either if you have blue and pink, you get times 5 points. But if you have one of the other 3 colors, they're times 8 points. There are some based on your area majority in the southern part of the map or the northern part of the map. So there's a lot of different elements that you can kind of aim for. And when you win these reckonings, you get to decide which ones are going to be in play and which ones might not be in play. And that's very important. Now, there is another element in strategy to this, which was interesting. For example, in the first round, I won the first reckoning. And I had a choice. It was a very powerful one. It was like one of these that gave 8 victory points. I could choose to just get 8 victory points right off the bat, or I could choose to do the warden or the monument position. Which one is the best choice? I don't know. I default to thinking that choosing the victory points is more important because you're giving the next player down the line the ability to dictate the scoring. In this specific example, the real life example, we had the player who literally did do the red card draft strategy, getting multiple different types of unique sets. I chose a different element that gave me what I thought would be long-term success, while they chose the monument and placed it right here in the unique sets bonus, scoring them immediately 9 victory points at the end of the age. And that compounded because other people are getting negative points for not having those cards. So it's kind of an interesting element in the strategies of what you choose in rewards, the cards that you're drafting, everything kind of coalesces with each other, making a very interesting, unique game. The final thing I really wanted to hammer on is that every game is completely different because of the 19 different elements and strategy scoring positions. It changes the strategies that you're going to play. Yes, they're going to play similar in the sense that you're doing the same drafts and you're doing, different types of rewards and things, but your strategy, you can't rely on the same strategy every game. It's not always going to work. Yes, maybe you can, brute force getting the red artifact. That might be a good strategy that you could brute force every game, but maybe the unique sets card doesn't actually get up because if you're not winning the rewards, you might not be able to choose it. So there are a lot of different elements that you have to be aware of. And if you try to brute force a certain strategy, it might not work based on what other people are doing and the scoring opportunities that are present. Realm of Reckoning blew me away. And while I lost our last game handedly, by a lot of points. Well, not necessarily because I did this player with lots of points. I got within 3 of getting 3rd place. I kept telling myself, even though I'm losing, I'm having a ton of fun. And that is an element of a game that's good because I was still engaged. I felt like I still was trying to come up with strategies, and I had the most amount of points scored in the final round than any of my other players. So that was something that felt gratifying. Now, if I didn't do some of my mistakes earlier, try to, for example, not choosing the right scoring opportunity on the Reckoning card, maybe those scores would have been different and things might have changed. I don't know. But it made me want to play the game again and again and again and keep exploring Realm of Reckoning. And I cannot wait to see what else they can do with this version, if anything, because it's great. I can't wait to see what Ivy Studios has up their store. All of their games present such a unique social game for my table that I'm kind of in love with it. I don't know what else I can say. So wait. I forgot to say, I have a giveaway going on right now on the channel. Maybe I'll bump this earlier. And one of the games that's part of the giveaway is an IV Studios game. So I figured why not we bring it up and talk about it. And I'll even message Austin and be like, hey, Austin, can we get a Realm of Reckoning giveaway here? So let's do this. If we get 100 likes on this video, I'm going to do my best to convince Austin to throw in a 4th game into the giveaway, which will be Realm of Reckoning. I think that'd be really cool. Let me know what you guys think. For the giveaway, there are some easy things to do here. You must do a hashtag question of the day. The question I want to know is, what Ivy Studio games have you played, or have you thought about getting any of them in your collection? Let me know in the comment section down below. So to enter the giveaway, you're going to answer that question, or you hashtag QOTD for question of the day. You must be subscribed to the channel. So remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend to make yourself a public subscriber, which is in the settings of YouTube, which allows the creator to see if you're a subscriber, which guarantees you that you get your giveaway. The final thing you can do is, of course, like this video to help us get to the realm of reckoning, and let me do some magic and get Austin to throw in another game. No guarantees, but at least we have 3 other games available in the giveaway, so their chances of you winning are better than not. My name is Brian. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure you check out their Kickstarter. I'll have a link down below to it once their campaign goes live. My name is Brian, and I will talk to you very soon.